Hi, everybody, and welcome to ZTV Live. I'm Susan Mulligan Fleischman, and I'm so pleased to welcome my guest tonight, Jane Collins of HERD, a nonprofit here in Alexandria that's doing amazing work, giving a voice to the voiceless, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with her. But first, I'd like to give you a few items in the news. In local news, George Washington's Mount Vernon estate will open to members this Saturday, June 20th, and to the general public on Sunday, June 21st. They have been closed since March 14th. And while the mansion is not yet open for visiting, there will be increased historical interpreters and staff on hand to answer questions. And as well, the upper and lower gardens, orchards, outer buildings, and other outside areas of the estate will be accessible, including the Grand Piazza overlooking the Potomac River with adjusted seating capacity. Of course, guests are asked to maintain social distancing, wear face coverings, and bring only clear bags and purses. Hand sanitizer stations will be available throughout the estate. Capacity is limited, so buy your tickets online for guaranteed entry. Visit mountvernon.org/open for full details. On Saturday, June 20th, most of Alexandria's rec centers will open with modified hours and limited access. These changes are in place to follow the second phase of reopening. Senior-only hours will be introduced to help protect vulnerable persons on the community while providing an opportunity for exercise. Sites operating with changes are the following: the Charles Houston Rec Center on Wythe Street, the Leonard Chick Armstrong Recreation Center on Reed Avenue, the Mount Vernon Recreation Center on Commonwealth, Patrick Henry Recreation Center on Taney Avenue, and the William Ramsey Recreation Center on Sanger Avenue. The recreational access schedules will be posted online by Friday, June 19th. Check thezebra.org, as we'll be providing updates as they're available. And more good news for Alexandria residents: outdoor pools in the city will be open July 1st. Pools will operate according to the second phase of reopening in Governor Northam's Forward Virginia plan. Under the guidelines, both indoor and outdoor pools may be open for diving, exercise, and instruction. Lap swimming is limited to 3 persons per lane. The city has not yet announced an opening date for indoor pools. As a result of the transition into Phase 2, the Memorial Pool on Wythe Street will be open for scheduled programming only, with no drop-in or lap swimming. The Warwick Pool on Landover Street will be open for scheduled programming with limited pop-up ticketed entry for swimming when possible. The Old Town Pool on Cameron Street will offer ticketed entry for swimming from noon to 7 p.m. on weekdays and from 10 to 5 on weekends. At locations where ticketed entry applies, reservations will be available every Thursday at 9 a.m. for the following week. Tickets will be limited to 1 per person. See thezebra.org for full details. Many thanks to the Zebra's wonderful news editor, Kevin DeRay, for keeping us all informed and up to date on current events in Alexandria. And now I'm so pleased to welcome my guest tonight, Jane Collins of HERD. Hi, Jane. Welcome to ZTV Live.
Hi, Susan. Thank you. It's so good to be here.
It's great to have you here. Let me just look at okay, good. I was worried that my mic was muted, but I think that I can hear me. If everybody can, it seems like we're being able to be heard loud and clear. So welcome so much. I'm so happy that you were able to come on the show today. Would you like to just start by giving yourself, I know that you're the founder and executive director of HERD, which is an Alexandria nonprofit that teaches creativity and life skills disguised as art to unheard populations.
That's right.
Can you describe that?
Yes. Well, the origins of it, there's 3 different parts to it. First, I knew, and I'm in my second career. My first career was in the U.S. Air Force. And I knew after some trial and error, I would only be happy if I created something and did it on my own. My dad started and founded a lumber yard. My mother's an artist, so they're both fairly entrepreneurial anyway. And I guess, so I come by it naturally. And the other part of it is going back to my mom, who is a fabulous artist, and I know she's listening now in Ohio, but she's still painting. Yeah, hi, Mom. And anyway, I just remember her painting these beautiful works of art. I mean, she's won shows. She's gotten best of show, first place. Her stuff has traveled all over the country. And still, people, when she would try to sell her art, which she always priced very inexpensively so people could afford good art, they would still try to cut her price, you know. And it would just make her feel so bad, and it would just demoralize her. And I just felt so bad for that, that I have a real sensitivity to artists being paid for their work. And you don't negotiate with your lawyer. You don't negotiate with your accountant. You don't negotiate with the guy that paints your house, right? But people feel like they can negotiate with an artist or expect it for free, right? So that's like part two. Part three was, I do live in Old Town Alexandria. I live close to King Street, which is the walkable area. And every once in a while, you do see people who seem to be down on their luck or homeless. And I've always wondered what their story was. And I always wondered what stories were in their head, creative stories, not just hard luck stories. But to me, they didn't have a platform where they could share their stories, where all of us have, blogs and Facebook and Instagram and whatever. A lot of those people don't have access to that. So I thought their stories deserve to be heard. They are worthy of being told. So I took all three of those together, the needing to do something on my own, and then fourth, I was looking for the unmet need in Alexandria, because Alexandria is such a community-based, supportive area. It took about a year to find a market where somebody wasn't being served or served enough. And as it turned out, I realized adults. There's a lot of creative programs for kids, which is wonderful and need to continue.
Well, I was going to say it's a nice problem to have that it took so long to find a need to fill.
Right. Yeah. Right. But there's not a lot of creative outlet for adults, especially adults that are unheard. So I thought, well, what if I create an organization where I pay artists an honorarium? It's not a lot, but pay them to bring creativity, where you learn life skills along the way, to marginalized or unheard adults. And that's how HERD was born.
Wow. It's such a wonderful idea.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you immediately get other people to begin the program? What did the program look like? How is it different today than what it was when you started?
Oh, well, it started out as a writing group. And our first meeting was in May of 2016. I met with 3 writers who were recommended to me by a friend, and we talked about a writing group. And so we spent about the rest of 2016 planning. We had our first class in January of 2017 in the basement of a church, Christ Church. And we got very good feedback, but very few people showed up. And then we realized, in the middle of winter, who's going to go to a church basement in January, right? So we decided, so we need to start taking the program to people who work with the adults that we wanted to serve. And I wanted to work through nonprofit partners or government agencies. I didn't want to go directly to those adults because some of them have been traumatized. We weren't trained in trauma training. So I wanted to make sure we had that extra layer of support. So we first went to Friends of Guest House and offered a writing program. And they were just starting a workforce development program. They're a wonderful nonprofit that works with women transitioning from prison. And then after a while, I thought, what if we had improvisation? Because I've taken improv classes before at the Little Theater of Alexandria, and the teachers are great, but Keely Kirk in particular is a wonderful teacher. So I asked her if she would do improv. And so it grew, and we brought on poetry, and we brought on dance, and we brought on singing, and we have journalism, and we have etiquette. And I even have an actor who teaches speaking and voice lessons to the inmates who win the writing contest, which we'll talk about later. And from Friends of Guest House, we now have 12 program partners.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
In 3 years.
Wow. That's really a lot of growth. And then how did you find the other teachers to work with?
I just started asking people.
I'm so sorry.
The writers I had, I'm sorry.
One second.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I started out with the writers, and then, I'd taken improv, and so I knew the improv teacher. And then I just started asking people, or people came to me. Some of the writers were in writing groups, and other writers would email me and say, hey, I heard about this program. I want to teach writing, or I want to teach poetry. A friend of mine, as it turned out, was a professional dancer. And she was a cheerleader for the Baltimore Ravens at one point and spent, a couple of decades teaching dance. I met a professional singer at a conference. So it just kind of happened. It happened
Wow.
organically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
And there's so much talent in this area.
There really are. And how do you feel? What do you think your impact is in the community?
Well, as it turned out, I can read you some impact.
Oh, that would be great.
If you go to our website, actually, you look under impact, and we talk about when we measure impact at the end of a series. A lot of our classes are like weekly for 4 weeks, weekly for 6 weeks, at least before COVID anyway. We just give the clients a feedback form and ask them to rate us in 6 different areas on a scale of 1 to 5, right? So the highest possible score we could get would be 5. We come out at 4.97, 4.96. I mean, it is amazing how highly we're rated. And the questions are, do you feel creative? Do you feel heard? Would you recommend this to somebody else? Did you learn about yourself? I mean, it is phenomenal. And then there's a comment.
It just shows what a need you are filling. Obviously you're just scratching that itch that was there and just not served.
Mm-hmm. The comments we get are, it is not uncommon to have maybe someone who is incarcerated, or someone who is a domestic violence survivor, or somebody who's in treatment for addiction say, you changed my life.
Wow.
We hear that. Or the teacher changed my life.
Mm-hmm. And all it was being encouraged to dive into themselves a little bit, to find their creative outlet and to find their writing, and just to put their feelings into words or into dance or into song.
Right.
So that's wonderful.
It does.
Were you gonna read some of the statements? Did you say?
No.
Okay.
I'd have to get out and go on my website. But everybody go on heardnova.org and look under impact.
Yes, absolutely.
And you'll see these really powerful statements from people.
And the website heardnova.org, as you can see, is right under Jane's name. Wow, how fulfilling and gratifying for you, and rewarding to work, even though I know that your heart's in the right place, you're doing it for other people, but it's so funny when we do things like that, how much we really end up getting out of it. By helping people and seeing them really grow. How did the coronavirus? This is always a question that we're asking right now because, of course, it's the reality that we're all living in. How did how has COVID-19 impacted this work? I guess you can't really be together with everybody as much.
Right. Because we were going on site and now we're not. And we had our last in-person class on March 23rd. And so we had to go virtual. So we first had to contact our program partners and say, do you have the capability for virtual Zoom classes? And we still don't at the detention centers, although I do believe they are working toward that at the Alexandria Detention Center, which makes me really happy. But our other partners, we started doing Zoom classes. We do 2 classes a week at Friends of Guest House. We do improvisation. And right now we're doing creative writing. We're going to go to poetry next month. We started every other week. We're doing dance classes at the Northern Virginia Juvenile Detention Center. They're the only partner we have who are not adults, because I thought somebody needs to listen to those kids.
Yeah. And
we've been doing improv there for a couple of years now. And the changes in them is just amazing.
Wow.
Feedback from them. Their program director told me once, she said, the only time I ever hear those kids laugh is when they're in improv.
Oh, that must have made you feel so good.
Yeah. Well, it makes my artists,
I was going to say improv is so releasing because you can just kind of go crazy, and you're really encouraged to be creative, and it's such a dynamic, give and take with the other people that are in the improv group with you. It's such boy, talk about a connection.
And you learn such life skills. You learn to answer any conflict with yes and. You just learn. There's so many life skills built into improv. And who this has a huge impact on is the artists. I've had almost every single one of my artists tell me that they have gotten so much meaning out of working for Heard, because they're able to help other people and because they're compensated. Even if it's enough to, help with expenses and babysitters and gas.
Right.
Just every single one of us said, Jane, you get it.
Wow.
You get what it's like to not expect to give it away for free. And that's so important.
And that was one of your initial elements, one of your
It
initial
was.
objectives that you were trying to achieve. And so,
Yeah.
good for you for being able to figure that out. And so the donations is obviously what they're getting, is how they're getting paid.
Yes, we get grants, we get donations. There is a nice big donation button on our website and every page, just saying. Well, we
Please
typically, I'm
visit.
not, what?
I said, please visit and make a
Yeah,
donation. It's obviously a very worthwhile organization.
yeah. But I don't typically go out and just ask people for money, just because that's not my style. But I will certainly take a donation if somebody gives it to me, and we've been very successful applying for grants.
That's
So.
great. That's great. Yeah, thank goodness for those grants. Do you have some grant writers on staff? Do you do the grant writing?
Sometimes, but I have a fabulous volunteer development director. Her name is Danielle. She found me.
Okay.
And she basically said, I want to work for you. I'm going to be your development director. I'm like, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's
So,
great. That's great.
Yeah.
And then, speaking of the COVID-19 changes that you went through, I believe that you had mentioned that the Quarantales series
Yes.
had come out of there. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Quarantales came from another change we made because of COVID was we thought, well, maybe we should expand beyond working with just adults because, quite frankly, we couldn't get into the detention centers and, we were losing classes. So we opened it up to the different service organizations in Alexandria, those that serve families, those that serve kids, as well as adults, and said, we're here to offer free art classes, virtually to your kids, to the families. We've done dance parties with foster families. We've just done all kinds of things because of that. But part of that was the COVID-19 Community Response Group, which is a huge group of 50 organizations, government, faith-based, nonprofits, all working together to help those most in need because of COVID, the people that need food and housing. They asked her to write some good news stories, some happy news, some stories about the good work that's being done. So I thought, well, a lot of good news stories kind of sound the same. I wanted it to be a little different. So I thought, well, what if we take people who are doing this work and we do a Q&A, because questions and answers are easy to read online and people tend to gravitate to that. And we'll ask about what they're doing, but we'll ask stuff that other people can identify with, like, oh, I've asked, when was the last time that you colored your hair? Or, how much weight have you gained? Or, something like that. Do you wear, have you ever worn sweatpants during a Zoom conference? What's in your refrigerator right now? That kind of thing. So everybody can identify with that. And again, they only volunteer it if they want to. But people have been very forthcoming about just telling us about themselves as well as the work that they do. And that's been real successful. And thank you to the Zebra for giving us that platform to share their stories, because they've been doing better than I thought, actually.
Yeah, well, the Zebra is the absolute right outlet for that kind of a story.
Yeah.
We are just all about good news, and so there's just such wonderful, heartwarming stories that come out of there. What were some of your more kind of surprising stories, or some of your favorite stories in the Quarantale series that you've done so far? And you've done quite a few of them so far. Mm-hmm. How many have you done?
8 or 9.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and 2 are in draft right now.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to seeing those when they come out.
Well, let's see. I found out, I don't want to say their names because I don't want to, embarrass them, but people have been telling me, like somebody said she was not only was she an executive director, but she was the mother of toddler twins. And I said, oh my gosh, where do you hide?
Yeah.
And she told me, she goes, I go out to our RV in the driveway. I hide there sometimes.
Oh my gosh,
so
can you
people have been very honest about it.
Yeah.
I've had people without even, when I said, okay, what do you binge watch? A lot of reality TV going on right now.
Yeah.
Some people will say, oh my gosh, I gained 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Without me asking really how much did you put on. That's kind of rude. But
yeah.
You know,
Well,
just different because we all are going through that,
I was
right?
gonna say it's just such a crazy time, and your
Yeah,
toddlers, kids you normally love, but it's like you're just like,
yeah,
what a good question.
yeah,
Where do you hide? Because much as
yeah.
you love them, it's been, I think, very trying on parents of young children to be home with
When
them
you're
all the
working from
time,
home.
trying to get your work done. They're not going to school. They're not going to daycare. You can't really get a babysitter. I mean, it's just really been tough. So,
Yeah.
um, but nice to that they're still getting their work done. They're still creating change and creating beautiful things and helping people. So,
Yeah.
that the human spirit is undefeated in so many ways like that. There are some writing contests through Herd as well.
Yes.
Can you tell me
Hmm.
about those?
I would love to. Last in 2018, we started in 2017. We went to the detention centers, the Alexandria Detention Center and the Arlington Detention Center, and offered to host a writing contest, fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, where the inmates could write in any of those categories. And then we would have it judged, and then we would have cash prizes, small amounts of money for their commissary. And it was incredibly successful. And the stories, if you go on our website again, under galleries, look under poetry, look under creative writing, you'll see their stories. And if it's from the detention center, it will say that. Or you can even put the detention center in the search box and all that work comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful and
Wow.
deep. And
And is that the photograph of the sheriff with the inmates? Is that are
yes.
those the winners of the contest?
Yes, that's from last year at the Alexandria Detention Center. Technically, there's 9 winners, three, first, second, third in fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, but some of the inmates have been released.
Mm-hmm.
And so we worked that out beforehand, so they do get their cash prize, but those were the remaining winners.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and
that
they
was a great
both,
picture of all of them. And
and
then
they bring
here's
in food. We have the
oh,
we have the award ceremony. The zebra always covers it. Thank you. But they'll bring in pizza. They bring in cupcakes. They bring in juice. There's like 70 inmates there, and what I love is the way they cheer for each other when the winners are announced.
that
They're
is
just
great.
so supportive of each other. So yeah, and
That's
then
fantastic.
I've been asking an acting teacher, Mike Baker, also from the Little Theater of Alexandria. He's come in with the winners before the awards ceremony, the Friday before, and the ceremony is usually on a Monday. He's given them an hour and a half class on public speaking. So when they tell their stories, in fact, one was on channel 4, I think, 2 years ago. But he tells them how to, speak, how to enunciate,
Wow.
what words to emphasize. So when we had a winner who actually was on, DC wide television, NBC, he just sounded so phenomenal. And at the end
Wow.
of it, he said, maybe I'll be a writer when I get out.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fantastic. And
yeah,
what a beautiful gift. And it was not a lot of, well, it was a lot of time and very valuable for the volunteer for Mike Baker to offer his time, but
yeah,
what
yeah,
an invaluable gift that he gave these
yeah.
people to speak with a voice and to
Hmm.
command respect and to
Yeah,
this is how you act, like you said, the life skills that
right.
unfortunately they don't always get along their life path. And so
Yeah,
wow, gosh, that's really
yeah.
heartwarming, Jane. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, the poet laureate of Arlington judged the poetry. The poet laureate of Alexandria judges the poetry in Alexandria. Um, the one in Arlington is actually putting a book together of poetry from different citizens and has contacted some of the inmates to put their poetry in her book.
Wow.
Our, the first place nonfiction winner in 2018 was featured in Arlington Magazine.
Wow.
And it was read by a woman who had lost her son to drugs or
Mm.
suicide. I'm not sure, but he knew the author. He knew this inmate who's now released, and the mother contacted the jail and asked to meet with him just to tell him how much it meant for her to see his name in print. She saw it in the magazine in a salon or something, and just wanted to tell him what it meant to her to see that he had been published.
Wow.
So there's just all kinds of effects going on from bringing art to unheard voices
There
because they all have
really, there really are. That
yeah,
is beautiful. And speaking of art, I wanted to show another couple of photos. I'm
okay,
a little clunky on the pictures, but here's
yeah,
this virtual party at the Casa
Chirlagua,
Chirlagua.
our
What was
dance
that from?
party.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, that's Tina and her son Bryce, and
Uh-huh.
she's a professional dancer and a good friend of mine. And so, again, because it's virtual, we just set up a Zoom site.
Yep.
And if you look really closely, all those kids are dancing. I think we had, oh gosh, 38 or something.
Wow,
But
that's
yeah,
fantastic. Yeah.
Tina just did a dance party for the LGBTQA community a couple of weeks ago as well.
Oh, I think I
And
have that picture here too. That was that a she art? Was that a different
oh, that's
thing?
some,
This picture
yeah,
was a
same
she art.
community, different kind of art. Yes,
Okay. And so
yes.
these are just they're holding up the artwork that they created for that.
That is one of my favorite kinds of art that we do. Allison is the teacher. She's also a special ed teacher, and she works with the LGBTQA high school kids out in Northern Virginia. But you have, in an hour and a half time, you make your own placard with your own face and your own personal motto.
Wow.
And so you have that. And so it's all your sayings. It's your own affirmation you can look at every single day.
Wow, that is really
Yep.
great. You
Thank you.
know, and more again, more life,
Right.
self-affirming materials.
Yeah.
And then here's another picture of the Valentine from the
Oh,
Alexandria Residential Treatment Center. That is
yeah.
so sweet.
Oh, Sharmila did that. She is so incredibly creative. She's another one of our visual artists. She literally makes things out of nothing. And
Hmm.
so for Valentine's Day, yes, this person proposed to his girlfriend and
Oh,
used her art class to make the card. So I don't know if she said yes or not.
oh well, hopefully she did.
I hope so too.
Let's all think that she did. And then I
Yeah.
wanted to play also, Jane, the video of a woman, and I don't know where if she
Yeah.
was, was she where was she when she was reading? This is the PJ's poem.
Yeah, this is great. She's from Friends of Guest House.
Okay.
And Wendy Kaplan, who is the former poet laureate of Alexandria, had led them through a poetry series. It's really cute. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Let me play it, and then we'll talk about it after.
Thomas, and I am from. I'm from a place called the PJs, but to me, a place where we play tops on the blacktops, where boys and girls love to play a game of house, a place where after you bathe at night, you get your hair braided. I'm from fried chicken and lima beans and cornbread, where there's Sanford and Son and the Jeffersons, sometimes Flintstones blaring before school, a place where I will never forget my grandmother's love of God and coffee, but most of all, her sacrifice. My mother's love of slushy Pepsi that really made you burp through your nose. And Bruce, who always had a sure nose where mom would be.
Oh, that is so cute. The Pepsi that makes her burp through her
Hmm.
nose. Oh my gosh. I mean, you can tell her that she's a little shy reading it, but you can see how
Yeah.
intimate and personal it is for her.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I've been doing on Herd has its own Facebook page, Herd Nova, and then my own Facebook page, Jane Hess Collins. I've been taking, videos, poetry, stories written by African Americans now just to get their story out. And that is also one of the ones on the Herd page. There's been some searing poetry from incarcerated Black men
Oh,
who've written about what it's like to be in prison and be a Black man or be transgender
oh,
and be in prison.
oh.
So,
I can't imagine the
yeah,
struggles and how difficult it must
yeah,
be. I think it should be required reading,
yeah,
for a lot of people.
yeah,
Um, that's just really, it's just such wonderful work that you do, Jane.
yeah.
No wonder you love it so much, and your passion for it and your love for it just comes shining through.
Oh,
So
thank you. Well,
yeah, it. How can are you looking? Well, I have two questions for you. One
sure.
is where is Herd going from here? And do you need help to get there? And is there something that people can do in the community to help you get there?
Oh, yes and yes. I've kind of struggled for a long time with what should I do with this. And I think it's sort of an American thing that if you have something, it should be bigger. And if it's bigger, it should be even bigger, and that's something I kind of fight. But I've been talking to some strategists lately on what's the best way to proceed because I don't think anyone really does what we do in terms of paying artists, which is just foundational. to work with marginalized adults. So, should we get bigger? Should we be, the big nonprofit with all the money and the staff and the buildings? And quite honestly, no, I just don't do that.
Yeah.
Should we merge with another nonprofit? I'm going back to my original intent was to stay small and stay local. However, plant seeds in different communities. I'm writing a guide. My development director has written a grant for a 3-year contract for a social media strategist to engage art communities across the U.S. and to just plant these seeds of doing what
idea.
Works in your community. And we've started that in my
train the
hometown.
trainers program.
We started that in my hometown back in Ohio, Bellefontaine, Ohio. I met with some of their community leaders a year and a half ago, just explained what I did. They started a completely different program, but it was working with women in the local jail and bringing them things like, it was, I think, a running club, whiteboard visioning. There was a faith component to it. So it had nothing to do with her, but it was all about bringing arts to that population. And they've said, we wouldn't have done this had we not talked to you. So I know it can be done. And it's very easy to do. This is very easy to do.
And rewarding.
Anyone can
and
do
how
what I do.
rewarding and how needed.
Yeah.
In a way, if once you give your idea and your inspiration, it is really theirs to take and run with it however they see fit. And the beautiful thing is that even if it doesn't look exactly like your program, it's still a wonderful addition that wouldn't have been there without you. So it is still to your credit. It is still to your credit.
Thank you.
So how can people help? I know that they can make donations on your website, but other than that, how can they help?
You do that. I'm also expanding our artist base. I try to keep, local adults helping local people in need, local funding, all very local. And I have wonderful artists. But, as we continue to grow, as more people want us, especially as we're going more virtual now, and I think we're going to be virtual for a while, even if we do on site at some point again, I just need more artists. So if you are a professional artist, if you have a passion and the capacity and the interest in working with these populations, and it's a selective process. That's another thing. I only hire professional artists because I want the people that we work with to have the same, to be taught by the same high level of skill that other people pay for. So people have asked me, do you use college interns? And I'm like, no, I don't, because I want them to have the same caliber. That's the word. I want them to have the same caliber of instruction that paying people get. But there's plenty of people like that in this area.
Yeah.
And I would love for them to contact me.
There really are, and I hope that people can hear that call. And if it's not you, maybe it's a friend. I'm speaking to the viewers now, that if it's not you yourself, maybe you know somebody who might be a good fit. I can think of at least one person that I'm going to mention this to that I think would be a wonderful fit for you.
Thank you.
And Jane, it's just I have to say it's so admirable that you really know what you want to do with this program. You kind of knew what you wanted to do when you started it out, and you kept to that. And at different areas of growth, you're like, nope. What did I want to do? It's always going back to the basics, right? I mean, isn't that how it's a very disciplined approach? So you must find some comfort in that, of always going to be like, wait, why did I do this in the first place?
I have my days. But eventually I come back.
Sure you do.
Always come back home.
Yeah, exactly. But and that is definitely the right way. Well, I really want to thank you so much for coming and describing your really wonderful work that you do and giving a voice to the voiceless. You have a lot of love and comments from people who are talking about a phenomenal woman with her spirit, from Bridget Brown. Laura Sims Bain says the respect, investment, and affirmation for these marginalized adults is so powerful. So you're getting a lot of hellos. And Charlene Braxton, Nina Sichel.
Nina Sichel. She's one of our artists. Yeah.
Sichel, she says Jane is a dynamo, a fireball, and a real inspiration, which I think that we have absolutely seen here tonight. So thank you. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we sign off?
No, I just want to thank. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say
thank everybody.
Good.
For supporting. for what you do in the community, for supporting our work, but then everyone who's been helping everyone get through this COVID thing. I'm just grateful. And you'll hear from me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're out there.
And we might see you next week.
Yes.
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 Soon. So the plan is right now for next Wednesday night that you'll come back, and if all goes according to plan with the schedule, and maybe have some more of your quarantine stories for us. So we'll look forward to welcoming you back then. And if not Wednesday, hopefully very soon thereafter. But we'll count on Wednesday for now.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Beautiful.
right, Susan.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jane. Going over to switching my camera. Okay, well, that was it for ZTV Live. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow night, please join us. We'll have the 3 chefs from the Gourmet Angel Food Network talking about a wonderful food distribution program they've begun in their community in Old Town. So I'm really looking forward to that. Right back here again tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And in the meantime, until we see you again, I hope that you can be the good news in someone's life.